What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. I am the House Hacking Mom, and today I'm going to share with you a quick pantry tour of my pantry here. This is actually the largest pantry we've ever had, but it is, by most people's standards, a pretty small pantry. This is a standalone pantry, and I just thought I'd share with you guys how I organize it really quick. And it seemed like a good day for it because we have had a big snow day weekend. We got about 8-ish inches of snow where I live, and here in South Carolina, that means that the grocery store shelves are bare. This is normally my grocery shopping day, but we are just gonna hunker down and go a couple more days before I go to the grocery store. So it seemed like an appropriate day to share with you what I keep in my pantry and how I organize it, and maybe some things I'm gonna use this week to get us through to the next week for grocery shopping. So I really hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you go down and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And let's go ahead and jump into this video. So to start off with, I just want to talk really quick about the pantry itself. So if you live in a smaller home, or we live in a townhouse, a lot of times the actual kitchens themselves don't come with that much storage. By the time you've put your pots and pans and your appliances in the cabinets, there's not a lot of room left to store food itself. So a standalone pantry like this is really, really great. You can also get something like a big hutch, would be really beautiful if that goes with the aesthetic of your home. But we found this standalone pantry on Amazon, and it was a reasonable price, so we went ahead and got it. I really like it because it has 4 deep shelves, so I'm able to use the containers that I like. And the nice thing about storing your food in a pantry style as opposed to putting it in cabinets is because when you store your food in cabinets, which is what we had to do in our first apartment, the countertop makes it difficult to reach food because the countertop is always deeper than the upper cabinets. And I definitely can't store food in the lower cabinets because, one, the kids would get into it and it would just be really a pain to have to get down to get my food every single time I needed to get something. So if you've never thought about it and you live in a smaller home and you've always stored your food in cabinets, I highly recommend making an investment and getting a standalone pantry. And you can find stuff like this even on Facebook Marketplace, or even at your thrift stores. You're gonna find pieces of furniture like this. And this one came from Amazon, like I said. I can link it down below. It did come unassembled, so you had to assemble it. And so, that took an evening, but totally worth it. So now, as far as how I organize my food and what I actually keep in my pantry, I like to keep everything in containers as much as possible, as you can see here. But in this container, I store most of my dried goods. So think lentils, dried beans, cornmeal, green lentils, anything like that goes up in here. Something in the legume type of family all goes up in here. And these sorts of products are so good to keep in your pantry, especially for a week like we're about to have. We're not going to have maybe as much fresh food, but food like this lasts forever in your pantry. You almost don't have to worry about it going bad. It's so much cheaper and economical than buying cans. Even if you don't eat a lot of beans and lentils, I usually have barley in here as well. Even if you don't eat that stuff super regularly, it's always good to have 1 or 2 things like this in your pantry for times like this. The other box on the top shelf, I just decided to take it down so you can actually see what's in it. But in this container, I store my extra things that I don't use super frequently, or bulk stuff. So like I have lots of nuts, coconut in here. I have 2 different types of extra flours that I keep in here. And I don't use these, ultra regularly, but I do use them. Then we've got my refill of kosher salt, and then my refill of turbinado sugar, and then also dried fruits and things like that. So a lot of this stuff goes in my granola, and then the rest of it is kind of extra refill for baking. And as a side note, the more and more you get into baking, the more and more flour you're going to need to buy. So I find it very helpful that when I do go to Walmart, which typically Aldi is my grocery store, but when I do go to Walmart, I always buy 2 bags of flour. Usually it's either bread flour or I'm getting all-purpose flour. So I do make sure I'm always stocked with all-purpose flour. Now my second shelf here is all pretty much baking related. and my regular baking stuff. So in this container here, I have my homemade dark brown sugar. I also buy it store-bought sometimes, but I got a lot of molasses over the Christmas season, more than I really needed. So I've been using it to make really rich dark brown sugar, and that has been so delicious in all of the cookies that I've been making. You know, baking powder, things that I don't use super often, like gelatin, food coloring, which I pretty much just use for when I make Play-Doh for the kids, espresso powder for making really delicious chocolate desserts, cocoa powder, chocolate chips, all that sort of stuff is in this container here. And then back here I've got all my, regular baking stuff. I've got my all-purpose flour, salt, baking powder, regular brown sugar, and also white sugar back there. And I wanted to show y'all these containers because if you're someone who bakes really frequently, this is probably the best sort of container you can get to store your baking goods because they are really wide. I think square is the best shape container because even though, maybe it's not quite as quintessential, it fits so nicely in spaces. If this was round, the same amount of space, I would actually get a lot less flour in here. So with a container like this, I can fit a full bag of flour, a full 5-pound bag of flour, and it's super wide so I can scoop out of it super easily. So I really highly recommend these sorts of containers to store your dried goods. And then of course it's kind of got that suction seal, so I don't ever have to worry about anything going bad. That would never really happen anyway because I go through all of this stuff so quickly. But if you don't bake super often, you want to make sure that nothing's going to go bad in between uses. Now in these third two shelves, I have sort of separated into two categories. I have things that come in bottles. Also think oils, vinegars, syrup, anything like that will go in here that doesn't need to be refrigerated. Stuff that needs to be refrigerated that comes in bottles is obviously in the refrigerator. And then over here in this larger container, I have things that are in jars and cans. Peanut butter, molasses, jam, diced tomatoes, canned tomatoes, any sort of canned product like that. And then also, larger things that are circular, like panko breadcrumbs. And I also actually keep my grits in here because they come in a circular large package and they would not fit on my other shelf. And we're actually going to be making homemade pizza tonight. I have the recipe for my cast iron skillet pizza on my YouTube channel, so make sure you'll go check that out. It makes such good homemade pizza. But I will be using the canned tomatoes and obviously, the flour and other ingredients to make our pizza tonight. And then over here again, just white wine vinegar, rice vinegar, Worcestershire sauce, balsamic vinegar, olive oil, lots of other stuff like that. And then on this 4th shelf here, I have got these two metal baskets. I got these from Target forever ago and they have been great, and I think they're also really cute. So in here I have got basically dried pastas and rice, and obviously these keep forever. You want to keep stuff like this on hand. This week we're definitely going to be making some spaghetti, but sadly I am all out of cheese. We will not be making any macaroni this week. And then rice obviously of course lasts forever. In this basket right here I have got onions, extra garlic. I also keep garlic in a little dish over on my counter, and then also potatoes. Keeping large quantities of potatoes and onions on hand is so helpful because in a pinch you can always make some potato and onion soup. You've basically got all the ingredients right here. Throw in some carrots and some celery and you've got a meal. Also potatoes and onions last forever. As long as you keep them relatively cool, they last for months. Side note though, on potatoes, you do want to make sure, especially if you haven't cooked with your potatoes in say a week or so, just go through them, especially if you keep them in a bag like I do because I just want to keep them separate from my onions. You want to make sure you go through, do a little sniff test, feel kind of around the bag, make sure you have nothing that feels squishy or like it's about to go rotten, because rotten potatoes smell so bad. So just a little side note, make sure you're going through your potatoes somewhat regularly, because when they do go bad, it makes your kitchen smell vile, and it can also spoil some of the other potatoes in the bag, if not all of them. Not that this has ever happened to me. Ever. And the last couple things that I keep in my pantry are my grain mill. So this mill was actually given to me by someone who didn't really want to use it anymore. So they gave that to me for free. They just knew that I liked making bread, and they said, hey, would you like to have my grain mill? And I was like, yes. So keep a lookout for something like this. I bet Facebook Marketplace, you could probably find some grain mills of people who just don't want to bake with them anymore, or someone whose mom used to bake and now they've inherited it and don't know what to do with it. So keep a lookout for this, because grain mills can actually be really expensive. And I can obviously use this to grind any sort of grain. I've ground wheat berries, obviously, rye berries, and rice to make rice flour. And then over here, I keep my bulk supply of wheat berries and also of oats. So my mom actually buys, the 50-pound bags, and then I get to take, what I need. So that has been really wonderful for us. And then also way back here, I keep some emergency ramen noodle soup for when we need it, because I don't tend to keep a lot of canned soup on hand, tomato soup, but that's pretty much it. So this has come in handy this week with the snow, just to have some quick meals to make after we were playing outside in the snow for a long time. So just as a quick recap, the meals I plan on making this week, since we're not going to be going to the grocery store, is I plan to make some homemade pizza, some spaghetti, and then we will also be making a white bean soup of some sort. I'm going to have to substitute ground beef because I don't have any chuck roast. So we're going to be using ground beef and potatoes in that soup. And then leftovers should carry us through the rest of the week. And then fortunately, I have plenty of fruits on hand to carry us through this week. And we're probably going to run out of milk, but that's okay. And then for breakfast, fortunately, I have a full quart of yogurt, and we've got eggs, and we've obviously got oatmeal down there. So we're going to be good. We're going to have leftovers, and it's going to be kind of fun, challenging myself to go a full extra week without grocery shopping. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful to kind of go through my pantry, see how I organize it and what I keep on hand, and to kind of encourage you, if you also have a smaller pantry, you don't have one of those big giant walk-in pantries that you often see when you Google pantry tours, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I make videos like this every week about frugal living, healthy eating, and minimalist parenting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.